everyone. So this will serve as your video lesson pertaining to the lesson 1, which is the introduction to general chemistry. So but before that, let us know first what is the description of the subject. Of course, when we say description, this is the main focus, or this is the field that we will trying to figure out in the general chemistry. So what is this? Of course, the main point or the main focus of general chemistry is just the study and the changes of matter. If you're trying to figure out what is matter, as I've said a while ago in our in the link, in my introduction in the link, matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. If literally the thing has space or has a mass or has a bigat, just it is a example of matter. So here in general chemistry, we will be tackling, or we will be focusing on what is the classification of matter from the mixtures and substance. So in mixtures and substance, it is included, or we will be tackling also the elements and compounds. And aside from that, we will also discuss the properties of matter and, of course, the branches of chemistry. So all of that will be encircled in the field of matter, or in the topic matter. So that would be the description or the main goal of discussing general chemistry. So with that, let's start first on asking, or let's start first with this question. Of course, in any other introductory part, there is a certain question that to be unlocked. So that question is, what is chemistry? Okay? So it's very easy for us to define what is chemistry. Why? Because in one word, chemistry is everywhere. The thing that you have, the clothes that you have, the drinks, the food that you have, that is belong to chemistry. Why? Because all of that can explain by chemistry. So in this question, we can define chemistry as a branch of science that deals with the study of matter and the changes that takes place in matter. So literally, if we're trying to figure out what is chemistry, it is just a study of matter and the changes of matter. So if we try to figure out what is the changes of matter, we will be dealing with the properties of matter, composition and structure of matter, changes that matters undergoes, energy that accompanies these changes, and lastly, the laws and principle that govern in the changes of matter. So all of it, this field will be focusing on the study of matter. And when we say matter, it is anything that occupies space and has mass. Everything that has mass and has space is a matter. Even you, considering us as a human being, because we occupy space. We also has a mass. So meaning to say, literally, we called as living matter. So for the things that you are actually seeing around you, that is called a matter. And you as yourself, that is called as a living matter, because you are a living organism, and the matter or the things that you've seen is belong to non-living organism. So that would be the focus of on the field, or that would be the focus of general chemistry. So with that, of course, why do we need to study chemistry? Number one, we need to study chemistry because we have to know everything. We have to know the things that surrounds us. We have to know the properties that belongs to that thing. We have to know if it is in chemical or physical property. Why? Because we need them. 'Di ba? Pag sinabing we need them, we use them, we use them in cooking, we use them as a food, we use them as in our everyday living. So literally, we need to know, or we need to study the chemistry for us to know everything, for us to know what is the properties, the structure, the composition of everything that we used. Okay? That is the reason why we need to study chemistry. And by knowing chemistry, of course, we need to know also the branches of it. We have 5 branches of chemistry. First is the organic, second is the inorganic, third is analytical chemistry, fourth is biochemistry, and fifth is physical chemistry. Here in general chemistry, we will just giving emphasis with the field, the with this field. Okay, when we say giving emphasis, I will just be connecting it to the field of the chemistry. So don't worry, it's not literally that we will trying to discuss everything, the five branches. It is just the connection of the branches to the main field, which is chemistry. So let's start first on defining what is analytical chemistry. Here, from the word itself, analytical, meaning to say we will trying to figure out analysis. Okay, when we say analysis, this is a branch of chemistry that dealing with research. Why? Because analytical chemistry is explains or it seeks determine the composition of the substance. Meaning to say, when we say it seeks determine the composition of substance, we'll literally know the measurement of a substance. That is why this branch of chemistry is relatable to research, because here we will inculcating experimentation, and in the experimentation we will be knowing the correct or precise or accuracy of the measurement of different reagent. If we're trying to know the machines with the measurement, we will be focusing on analytical chemistry. So in the my main point is that when we say analytical chemistry, it's much more dealing on calculation of the reagent. Ma'am, ano yung kinakalculate natin sa analytical chemistry? Ito yung mga measurement po ng reagent. Ma'am, ano po yung reagent? These are the chemicals and the substances. Okay? So that is analytical chemistry. So do not forget, when we say analytical chemistry, it is a determination, or this time we will determine the composition and the structure, the composition of the substance. If we're trying to figure out what is this composition, number one included there is the measurement of the substance. So in analytical chemistry, the main point of this is all about calculations, and not only calculation. We will be knowing also there the different machine that we can use in calculating the measurement, and at the same time, the main point of analytical chemistry is relatable to research. Okay. Next, we have biochemistry. Here, this is the much more interesting part or branches of chemistry. Why? Because it's the study the chemicals found in the living things, such as your deoxyribonucleic acid and proteins. So one good example of biochemistry that is, or chemicals that living in our inside the body, is the macromolecules. When we say macromolecules, these are the chemical base that living inside our body. What are those? We have carbohydrates, nucleic acid, lipids or fats, and of course, the last one is protein. So meaning to say, in your body, we have chemicals that inculcated in there. And what are those? These are called as the macromolecules. So basically, in biochemistry, that's why it's called biochemistry, because bio means biology or study of life, and chemistry means chemicals in living organism. When we say chemicals in living organism can be considered as life or as biology. That's why it's connected. Biology plus chemistry. When you mix the word, it's called biochemistry. Meaning to say, you are studying the chemical bases that can be found in the living organism. So that would be biochemistry. So aside from biochemistry, we also have inorganic chemistry. So here it's very easy to comprehend. Why? Because inorganic chemistry is the substance that do not contain carbon. When we say do not contain carbon, these are, for example, water, mineral, and salt. All of that has no carbon. Okay, so that is inorganic chemistry. So it's very in contrast or vice versa to organic chemistry. Why? Because organic chemistry is a carbon-based chemistry. When we're trying to figure out what is carbon-based chemistry, meaning to say these are the chemical base inside the living organism. What are those? As I've said a while ago, this is called as macromolecules. Ano-ano sila? Carbohydrates, protein, lipids or fats, and nucleic acid. These are a good example of organic chemistry because it is a carbon-based substance. And lastly, we have physical chemistry. Of course, we the branches is not complete without physical property. Physical chemistry. Why? Because in physical chemistry, this is the field that we will be inculcating the physical properties of each chemicals. So as I've said, the branches cannot be completed without physical chemistry because physical chemistry is the one who will determine the physical properties of each chemicals. And that is very important in dealing chemistry, because physical properties is included to the composition or structure of each things or each substances. So that's why physical chemistry is very important to the field. Okay? So physical chemistry, it's all about the study of physical properties of a chemical. Organic chemistry is a carbon-based chemistry. Inorganic chemistry, these are the study or a chemistry that do not contain a carbon. Biochemistry, these are the chemical base inside the living organism, or chemicals that can be found in the living organism. And lastly, we have analytical chemistry. This is to seek and determine the composition of the substance, or it's all about measurements and calculations of the substance. So these are the branches of chemistry. So I hope you understand each branches. So if you have a question, you can literally raise that one in our GC. So next slide, let's now undergo with the phases of matter, a study and concern with chemistry. Here it's very understandable and easy to comprehend. Why? Because it is just a phases of matter. Starting with what is matter. So as I've said a while ago, paulit-ulit, when we say matter, it is anything that occupies space and has a mass. So here, if we're trying to figure out the space and has a mass, it has its qualification and criteria. What are those? It should the matter itself, or the thing itself, should occupy space, and it should possess a mass. And literally, it will explains also the term such as sound, thoughts, cyberspace, spirit, or etc. So that is the criteria or qualification of being a matter. Okay? So since we've already done discussing the matter, let's look at the illustration below. This would be the phases or the changes of matter. So as you can see, these are the molecules or the particles of the each phases. So as you can see, we have the gas, liquid, and the solid. So from the illustration below, you can literally see the differences between the three phases. As you can see, the gas, the molecules or the particle can move freely. As you can see in the liquid, the particles or the molecules can move, but not the same with a gas that they can move freely. And lastly, when we say solid, so the molecules or the particles of the solid is very compact to one another. That when we say compact, makikita na natin yung vibration sa kadikit-dikit nila. So that is the illustration that belongs to phases of matter. Okay? So before we undergo with the three phases, let's discuss first what is phase. Phase depends on the strength or forces of attraction between the particles. So as you can see, if the particles can move freely, that is called phases. So meaning to say, when you say phases, this is the forces. Forces of attraction, how does the particle attracts to another particle, or how does the particle do not attracts to one another? That is phases. It depends upon on the strengths on how the attraction begins. Okay? So as you can see here, we have a strong attraction, we have in the middle, and we have no attraction at all. And that no attraction at all is the gas. So, why? Because the particle can move freely. Kahit dikit yan, hindi nila magawa. The strong attraction is in the solid because they are very compact to one another, and you can see it by the means of vibration. And in the middle, so lang, we have the liquid. Because in the liquid part, they can attract but not too long. Like for example, in the solid na hindi na talaga sila nagkakahiwalay. So that's why in liquid, it is just a middle point of attraction. Okay? Let's move. So these are the phases of matter. Of course, we have namely liquid, gas, and solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. As I've said a while ago, plasma is just a type of a gas. Okay. So most commonly in our previous in your previous topic in your high school or elementary side, of course, phases of matter has already been discussed in that time. In that, they introduce you as three phases. But here we will just discuss the fourth one, which is the plasma, because this is very important for you to know in accordance to the type of the gas. Okay. And sometimes the symbol that we are using in and formula or indicate in a certain compound or element. So for example, for solid we have NaCl or sodium chloride. In for liquid we have hydrogen chloride. For gas we have hydrogen, and for aqueous or water solution we have potassium bromide or KBr. So these are the actually examples that I will be giving to you in accordance to the field chemistry. Hindi na tayo yung for example, solid, liquid, and gas. It is just very easy pag sinabing solid rocks, ganon. We will be inculcating it in a compound or in an element. Okay? So that's it. That is the phases of matter, beginning with a solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. We will be discussing that one by one. So let's start first with the solid. As I've said, solid has a stronger attraction because as you can see here in the illustration, here, that the solid move, and we can literally know the movement of the solid by vibration, not that they can move freely. Why? Because they can move freely, hindi yung nakaka-move sila freely, because here in solid they can move by the means of vibration. Bakit? They are very compact, dikit-dikit to one another. So meaning to say, when we say solid, it has a definite shape and definite volume. Meaning to say, you can, if we're trying to figure out the example of solid, you can literally describe the shape and the volume. And it is most dense phase. Why? Because it is very difficult to compress, and of course it is very difficult to compress. The exception of it is water. So as you can see in the thing, except lang sa water ha, do not mind first the water. As you can see, the thing that you have that is a solid, let's say for example a rocks, or let's say for a rocks, if you're trying to compress it, you cannot compress it easily because it is solid. Okay? Solid material, meaning to say it's very compact to one another. The particle cannot move freely. It's not a water at all. So, it is a solid. So, meaning to say, it is very difficult to compress. Very difficult to what ba? Hold. To press. Yan. Kasi matigas. That is solid. So, as I've said a while ago, the particles vibrate and fix in position. So, meaning to say, like that in the illustration, you can see the movement of the particles by the means of vibration because it's very compact. Then, one good example of it is the crystalline lattice structure, or those element solid material that is in crystal. So you cannot compact it, you cannot compress it because it is a solid. So most attraction between particles is very strong. Note that aside from crystalline lattice structure, we also have example, we have amorphous solid. And amorphous solid include glass, plastic, wax, and siliputty. So these are a good example of solid. So meaning to say, if the thing has its glass or a amorphous solid, basically that is a solid. Okay? That is an example of a solid. Not literally the glass that is very thin ha, kasi if it is very thin, it's not also easily to compress, pero pag bitawan mo yan mabasag. Pero the thing here in our discussion, easily to compress ang pinag-uusapan natin. Yung easily, not easily to compress pala, difficulty to compress. Okay. Kung hahawakan natin ng glass and we're trying to give force, hindi siya mabibiyak agad. So meaning to say, glass that is belong to amorphous solid is still a solid. Okay? So that is solid. So aside from that, if we're trying to explain it in an easiest form, when we say solid, it has a definite size and a definite shape and a definite volume. All of that is belong to solid. Why? Because they are compact. The description of the solid is very visible because it is a what? A material that is very hard. Okay? That is one good example of the solid. So as you can see here, that the molecules or the particle held together in fixed position by strong forces of attraction. So as I've said a while ago, when we say solid, it has a strong forces of attraction. The particle is very strong in attracting the other particle. So that is solid. Next, we have now liquid. I'm sorry, excuse me. When we say liquid, of course, liquid, it is a water to begin with. Okay, when we say liquid, it is a water to begin with. So, if you're trying to figure out what is liquid, literally, it has a definite volume. Okay, it has a definite volume, but no definite shape. But there's an exception of that. We can easily describe the liquid if we will put it in a container. So, literally, you can describe the shape of the liquid if we're trying to put it in the container. Kung ilalagay natin siya sa container, that would be the description of the liquid. But in a word, liquid has no definite shape. It has a definite volume but no definite shape. And of course, liquid is hard to compress. The same to solid, hard or difficult to compress. Bakit? Kapag hawakan mo ang tubig, nahahawakan po siya pero nako-compress mo ba siya with force? Hindi ba? Hindi. Lumalabas lang sa fingers mo yung tubig because it's very hard to compress. And the why it is very hard to compress? Because the particle that is in the water slide past each other or slide pass through your fingers. So that is the reason why it's very hard to compress. So the forces of attraction between the particles here is still high but not in but not the same as a solid. It is still high because hindi sila they can attract to one particle. Okay? As I've said, okay, going back, pwede silang or nag-a-attract pa rin sila sa particle but not in a sense na stronger siya kaysa sa solid. It is not. The stronger one is the solid because solid hindi na talaga sila makakamove. Vibration na lang talagang makikita mo sa movement ng solid. While here in liquid, you can literally see the movement of the particles. But they can attract. Nag-bounce back pa rin sila. Okay? So that is liquid. So to trying to figure out what is liquid in the simplest form, liquid have definite volume but no definite shape. So on the other hand, when we say molecules, they held together with the forces of attraction which are not as strong as I've said, which are not as strong as the liquid. So at the topmost pa rin, it is still a solid. Sorry pala. As not as strong as the solid. So the topmost would be the solid, the next one would be the liquid. And the last one would be the gas. Okay, for the gases, it is no definite shape or volume. It usually expands to fill the container because it is just a gas or a hydrogen. Lowest density because the density of it is depends upon on the pressure of the container, and it has a little attraction between the particles. Why? As I've said, there is no they can move the particles can move freely throughout the container, so literally they cannot attract to one another. So it has a little incident of attraction. Then one good example of a gas is vapor. Okay? This is a gaseous state of something that is normally liquid. So one good example of is water vapor. Sa bahay nyo, when you boil a water, then the residue, yung makita mong bubbles, pag open mo ng container, that is water vapor. Yung residue sa gilid, yung it's like yung usok pag open mo ng boiling water, that is water vapor. Okay, that is a good example of the gas. So in literally easiest way, when we say gas, it's neither definite volume nor shape, or it has no shape and no volume at all, because you can literally define the gas through the fill in of the container. So as you can see here all of that inside of the balloon is just a gas. Oh, hindi mo yan makita, hindi rin natin makita, so it has no definite shape or volume. Okay? So then one good example of the gas is a plasma, or the fourth phases of matter. When we say of plasma, it is a gas that is a very high temperature, but the particle carry electrical charges. So meaning to say, in the plasma, they carries an electrical charges like positive and negative, the cation and anion. When we say cation, these are the charges that usually carries a positive one, and when we say anion, these are the charges that carries a negative one. So that is a plasma. Do not forget that one, ha. So when we say solid, has definite shape, volume, and sizes. When we say liquid, has no definite and has definite volume but not no definite shape and sizes. But literally, you can describe the physicality or the shape of the liquid if you're trying to put it in the container. And lastly, we have the gas. It has no definite shape and no definite volume. And we have the plasma. Plasma is a gas that is in a very high temperature, and it is usually has an electrical charges, which are the positive and negative charges, or the cation and the anion. So that was the phases of matter. Again, if you literally have a question, you can raise that one in our GC for me to entertain you. Okay, so this is just a representation or summarization of physical matter pertaining on the state of matter or phases of matter. So from molecular representation to interparticle attraction to expansion or compression to volume and shape, diffusion, motion of the particles, and density. So when we say diffusion, it is just literally the same with the motion. It is the movement of the particles. Okay? So I will not be explaining too deep here because this is just my summarization. I've already discussed the three phases. So for the summarization, this is the differences between solid, liquid, gas. If you're trying to read this or if you're trying to look at this, there is a big differences between the phases. The interparticle pa lang with the attraction of between the phases, magkaiba na sila. Okay, so that is the summarization for the states of matter or the phases of matter. So now let's move forward. So again, this is the phases of matter with regards to the illustration. So it is already done to explain. So as you can see, the solid is very compact. The phases of matter in liquid, for example, is just a water. So and the gas, you can see the particle that can move freely. Okay, so any questions, clarifications? Again, if you have one, you can send it to the GC or you can PM me via my FB account. Okay, so now our next topic would be the matter or the classification of matter. So this would be the next topic or the lesson 2. Okay, so but before that, let's discuss first the properties or the changes of matter. So to begin with, I think I've already have another video with regards to this. So this would be the video pertaining to the lesson 1. So if you have questions and clarifications, you are free to ask in our GC or in our or you can PM me and Facebook account. Okay? So thank you so much mga ma'am. So please answer your activity that I've given to you through your stock knowledge, um um through the learnings that you have in your high school or even in your college if you undergo general chemistry. So if there's no more questions, of course, because this is a video lesson, you can ask me again in our GC. Okay? So thank you so much. Bye, and I am expecting a question if you have it, but if you don't have a question, it's okay. So thank you and goodbye.